Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Super-Colombo. It is finally being released into the game. Affondatore? Apologies for pronunciation as always, but this is 16 406mm main guns. Yes, we get the Marco Polo shells, but with the number of guns that Colombo has. Alongside the nice characteristics like 360 turrets in the back, we get these exhaust fuel smokes, which are very useful for going dark at full speed, allowing us to play rather aggressive bow on play and then turn away for free, as you will see in a second. We also get a very fast shell swap time. This ship has a long reload of 40 seconds base, but the shell swap time is buffed alongside with using gunfeeder. So there's built into our ship as well as gunfeeder, gets us like a 9-second swap time, allowing us to nearly one-shot a Stalingrad off the start of this battle. The damage output is massive with this ship, but perhaps even better is the armor. This ship is a lot like a main, right? Main has 16 406s as well, but main has 38mm of armor upper belt deck armor, as well as a large superstructure. We have 50mm of deck armor, better upper belt as well, and we have a tiny little superstructure. Not only is it very short, but it is narrow. Where those secondary turrets are, yeah, that doesn't count as superstructure. It's very, very small. And then the sap, as soon as the Stalingrad tries to angle and get away, we essentially two-shot that poor man. That is Affondatore for you. So we have pushed bow in. We saw the deep water torps. That's a little bit scary. Our team is not very strong on this flank. We're caught out. Oh, wait. We have a smoke to get away. That is the special secret of all these Italian battleships. And maybe one of the reasons that we see that nerf to the Colombo Legendary mod not giving you very many of these smokes, maybe it's impactful. It's really nice to use it in situations like this. It also maybe lets the enemy light cruiser forget that you're there. I don't know. But notice no overpens there. And we citadeled that light cruiser with our sap shells. That is something Colombo can do, of course, as well. 96mm of pen on Colombo sap. We get 102mm of pen on the 406 sap here. I think the only major difference that makes is you can sap Citadel Minotaurs now. Brisbane's as well count for that. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot of difference there. Remember, the only way you can actually get those sap citadels is if the citadel plating is actually fully exposed. Sap, of course, isn't going to pen through any spaced armor, so it has to be fully exposed. So not a lot of ships that make a difference there, but it is pretty funny that now Minotaurs have to watch out. Notice our damage from that last AP salvo versus the sap into that Satsuma. I was switching off between the AP and the sap here. I wanted to see what the AP was going to be like, and it is quite solid. It actually has better pen than main AP does, as well as slightly worse alpha damage, but not by too much. You're almost like having main shells here, as well as being able to swap over to some shells that don't care about angling very much at all. But I've compared to main a lot, and it's worth noting that the accuracy is a big difference here compared to main. Main is much, much more consistent. Affondatore gets that new dispersion curve that all of these Italian battleships have, where it is at closer range, much better dispersion relative to a standard battleship like a Maine or a Montana. And at longer range, it is much worse. And I will say I did notice that. I would say that Legendary mod Colombo is fairly similar to the Affondatore as far as the damage output from the guns go, as far as the consistency from the sap, as well as the AP. We have more alpha damage here with Affondatore, but Lake Mod Colombo is just a little more accurate. So you're hitting a few more shells there with lower alpha. It kind of evens out. The big difference I noticed while playing was just how much tankier this ship is. You are just able to push in so much more. Getting closer means we're activating that special closer range dispersion much more often, leading to more consistency. It's also just going to have more battle impact as a result of that, playing a lot closer. Colombo already can play pretty close, by the way. It's not like Colombo can't tank very well. I was just pleasantly surprised, I suppose, with how much tankier Affondatore is yet. Notably, sap does not arm on destroyers, battleship sap that is. It's a good thing it doesn't, by the way. Otherwise, all the DDs in the game would just get one shot. So it's a good thing it doesn't, but worth mentioning that as the extra alpha damage here isn't as impactful into those destroyer engagements. Swap over the AP and Yeah, it's pretty consistent at these closer ranges. It seemingly is mostly the vertical dispersion that it gets that change of being really good at close range and really poor at longer ranges. Now, I want to talk a little more about the difference between this ship and the other super battleships, because we're going to be brawling a main here, a Patrie here soon as well. And as far as the AP output goes, it is a little bit less accurate than a main, but 16 shells is still 16 shells, guys. It's gonna hit pretty hard. Assume it is like a main salvo coming at you, because the other guy is probably not gonna get that unlucky. So that's a big damage output that it can do, alongside being able to instantly turn into angle, however, is most appropriate for the situation, and always have the rear guns on target. 360 turrets are just absolutely incredible. So, main versus Affondatore. We don't have a ton of help here, I would say, right now. We will maybe get some sub-torps on this main, I suppose, but we gotta watch out for their sub as well. Main's gonna do very little to us, and then we're gonna 25k him. This is not a particularly fair fight. Main has AP, or more likely HE would do a little bit more damage to us here in this situation. Our armor is just that good. And we have Sap. Sap at these ranges, we're going to get very consistent 20k plus alpha damage salvos, and main is simply just not going to be able to deal with that. He will actually have better firing angles. That is a little bit of a weakness here, especially if you're coming from Colombo and you're used to those insane 22-degree forward firing angles. Affondatore gets 33-degree firing angles forward and 35-degree firing angles backwards. So that is showing enough broadside that, in theory, you could get citadeled. I say in theory because this is one of the more frustrating parts about the design of this ship. There's many, including the Sap. The Citadel is below water. It's not even like Colombo Citadel, where it is waterline and there's many plates over top of it angled that make it almost impossible to hit. No, this one is like impossible to hit. They moved it like a flight or two below water. So even though I'm sitting this broad, 36, like mains are just going to get munched through by Affondatores. At these ranges, it's just not even a fair fight. And that's a main. Main is like the super battleship, the tanky one, the consistent damage output one. Affondatore, to me, felt just like a better version of that for the most part. Unless you want the ultimate inconsistent AP broadside hits, because that's where Affondatore can lose ground a little bit with that difference in the dispersion curve, as well as 1.6 sigma. So that is a small difference there, because remember, main has 1.7 sigma. It's not a big change there. Main has access, though, to the American accuracy upgrade in the 6th slot, which is a big deal. That 11% is really useful. We only get the 7% in the 3rd slot. So it is better dispersion on main, but the overall tankiness in a 1v1, Affondatore just wins clearly because of these sap shells, better armor overall, not having to worry about getting citadeled. I don't like this design personally. I really dislike that a ship like this one can, at any angle and range, hit you for a ton of damage because of the sap. Although, as already mentioned, the at-range dispersion can be a bit trolly, so it's not as painful as it once was with the Colombo Legendary mod, but it still definitely can hit you for 20 to 30k at those longer ranges. But also, if you do catch this ship off guard and broadside, you're at best going to be getting some full pens into him. At best, you're not getting those Citadel salvos. That is really, really disappointing. And to consider, when it's angled, it might even be tankier than Ushakov is. It's certainly got a smaller superstructure than Ushakov does. Maybe not quite that level of armor, but it's hard to hit the weak points on this ship when it is angled. And even if you catch it broadside, well, you're not actually getting those Citadel salvos into it. So this ship can survive a long time. Had to include a clip, of course, remind you what SAP does to submarines. Okay, this game did not end well. I got perma-focused by the carrier. The AA is slightly improved here compared to Colombo, but it's not good enough to be out on your own. So you got to be a little bit careful with that. Now, moving on to a game where we're going to spend a lot of this one playing pre-kited. I expect this is how you're mostly going to find yourself fighting against Affondatores. You're probably not going to fight the ones that are just pushing up, using their smokes early. I had to see what this playstyle was going to be like, and there's not a lot you can do to this ship when it's playing like this. The kited angles are good enough that we're not taking that much damage when angled. We have so much HP and healing in our back pocket, and I haven't even mentioned it yet, but we have an F key. we do have combat instructions here. They're not the most impactful, but they are going to give us for a minute when it's active. For a full minute, you get 10% ship speed and 10% reduction to your consumable reload. So that can get you back your smoke and your heal and your damage control a little bit quicker. It's not an amazing F key. It's not a game-breaking F key, but it's certainly better than no F key at all. Getting back to that smoke and that heal really helps its survivability, because this ship, again, you can go dark whenever you want to. You can use it to turn away whenever you want to, get out of a bad situation, that sort of thing. It is going to be activated on a number of hits, so considering we have 16 guns, you can charge it relatively quickly. Only 20k into that broadside Hanover, eh? That's a little disappointing. The AP, it's not quite as consistent as main. It can be, especially when you're getting those citadels, but I do think that I overused the armor piercing in these games. Perhaps that's because I was playing Colombo recently with its recent nerf that took the sap alpha damage down to that of the AP alpha damage, incentivizing me to use a little more of that armor piercing. Into Hanovers also, the sap shells aren't going to be full penning the upper belt. We only get superstructure pens then with the sap. That's why you want to typically switch the AP in that scenario. But it didn't net me that much damage. Like with a main, I'd be expecting 40, 50k there, probably. Maybe that's expecting too much, but 30 at least. But so 20 was a little bit disappointing there. Though, notice 85k. What was that? Oh my goodness, that was over 30k into that bungo. And we had probably lost lock on at that point. Just stick with the sap, guys. The sap alpha damage with this one is just so high. It is up over 14,000. 14,100 alpha damage on your sap. The AP alpha damage is 13,050, which is still decent. You know, that's less than 500 alpha damage off of main. But when you have sap shells, why would you use the AP that often? I would only suggest swapping to it if you can get those citadel salvos. As we usually talk about with sap, is just spam sap until you get almost guaranteed citadels, and then it can be worth swapping to it. So how can we get this ship as we use our smoke in another creative way where the carrier wants to target us because we're alone on our flank? It makes sense. He's going to either have to blind drop us or go after someone else. Good use of the smoke there. Having multiple smokes is a very, very nice detail of this ship. It is going to be early access for 3 months. So for 3 updates, if you decide to buy your way to this ship, you'll get early access to it. Otherwise, in update 15.9, it will be available in the tech tree. And at that point, everybody can get it if you have researched through the Colombo enough, and you also have like 50 mil credits. I don't remember exactly what super ships cost, but it's very expensive, of course. So early access, as we unfortunately don't get the citadels on the Smolensk. I was a little surprised by that. Maybe I hit too high, I guess. But back to this early access, let's talk about how you can actually get this ship if you want to spend a lot of resources it's going to take in this salvage event. Notably, it's not an auction. Previously, they've all been auctions where you just have to bid up with credits if you actually want to get the early access. So this isn't one where there's a variable goal there. It is just set for everyone at a lot of credits, Elite Commander XP, coal, uncommon economic bonuses, or salvage tokens. So you can use any of the resources existing that you already have to get 50% of the way towards Affondatore. Salvage tokens, though, have a limit of 30% of your way there, and you can mix and match these any way you want to get to 100 points, and that will get you the ship for that early access. The salvage tokens, by the way, you'll get access to those through combat missions over the next little while. So maybe worth waiting until you've been able to grind through all of those. That way you're saving some of the credits or Elite XP or coal. Certainly I wouldn't recommend running your coal into this event, considering we do have the holiday convoy coming up, which will get you access to some very rare, interesting ships for free just by grinding through missions and spending some coal on that one, as well as some other resources. So to me, this is maybe not the best use of your resources right now, considering the event we have coming up for the second half of 2026. But to get this ship, let's say you use credits and Elite Commander XP. It's going to be 100 million credits alongside 3 million Elite Commander XP. That would get you the ship. Or you decide to spend 250,000 coal instead of one of those. You can mix and match as well. You don't have to use the full 50% of each one of these. Interesting that you can use uncommon economic bonuses. You'll have to use 1,500 of them, but if you have that, that will also get you 50% of the way towards this ship. So interesting that it is not an auction. Interesting that it is a salvage event this time. We'll see what that results in, if there's more or less of these ships running around. I know for myself, I'm not looking forward to fighting this ship. I just got to be honest with you. Don't enjoy fighting Colombo that much, even still after they have nerfed it at range. Still not the most enjoyable ship to fight against. And this one at the super ships tier is going to be rather difficult to deal with. This ship has the higher alpha damage on the sap. That's the nerf that they gave to Colombo. Remember, they got the sap down to equal the AP alpha damage, and it's still very good. So that didn't make it to this ship, right? So we still have that increased sap alpha damage. The armor is just a lot better on this one. Way smaller superstructure to farm. So if you're a light cruiser, even a heavy cruiser that doesn't pen 50 millimeters of armor, you're not going to be farming this ship very quickly at all. If you do manage to catch it with a fire or two, well, it can just damage control, and then while that damage control immunity period is up, you can just use its smoke to go dark and get out of that situation. This is a very, very difficult ship to actually take down when played well, and even if it's not played that well and someone just stays at the back of the map sniping with it, it's going to be very difficult to actually take that ship out. So I am not too excited about the addition of this ship, but it has made it to the game. I hope that this long-range dispersion, which I am noticing is a little bit worse. I've got to say it again. It felt a lot like I was just playing Legendary Mod Colombo as far as the damage output was concerned. So it wasn't like a massive jump up over what Colombo currently is with its guns. Maybe you'll have better RNG than I will. It certainly still gave some of those crazy 35, 40k hits here and there, but it wasn't terribly common with the sap. It felt a little more RNG based, especially at those longer ranges. So that's where, for me, the big upgrade going from tier 10 to super ships tier with this one is that armor layout. It is a shockingly small superstructure. The deck armor, or the deck in general, just feels rather sparse, doesn't it? There's just not a lot, especially in the back here. Like, there's just not a lot going on, brother. So what are you supposed to hit if you can't pen 50 millimeters of armor? Yeah. I mean, look bow on at this thing. I mean, Ushakov is also a bit of that, right? Where what do you shoot at when it just bows into you? But it's got a rather large superstructure, right? Let's look at the side of Affondatore here. That's not a lot to hit, man. That is not a lot to hit. Like, look top down here. All this where these secondary guns are is just deck armor. So that's 50. We do have a slightly worse upper belt armor in some places compared to Colombo. So 50 here and then 70 here. Colombo notably does have just 70 the whole way up, and then maybe some like 150 mil bits. But you see how Colombo even has a larger superstructure yet? Colombo's got a small superstructure as well, by the way, but it's got a larger superstructure. It's also got some more shot trap problems at the back here, where, you know, there's some flat sections right here and here that sometimes catch shells. That is less of a problem, I would say, on Affondatore, especially just because it's angled, right? So it's less of a box to catch the shells. So it can happen, but that's just not a lot to shoot at, bro. What happens if you catch it broadside, right? This is where, I mean, you can already see it, right? Like even Colombo is a bit like, what are we doing here with this Citadel size? What are we doing, right? This is not easily hittable. It is so far below. There's 25 mil turtleback, so you overmatch through that usually. But you're still not hitting that reliably, you know? But with the Affondatore, it's even worse, man. It's even worse. So you're just never, ever, ever hitting that, which is too bad. I think that ships should have a vulnerability. I think it's good that ships like Devastation have a vulnerable Citadel. Satsuma has a vulnerable Citadel. Maine has a vulnerable Citadel, even though these are like extremely well armored Citadels, so feels a little trolly at times when you're in your tier 10 battleship at even 15 kilometers, you just shatter. Ushakov is also especially bad for this, but at least at close range, if you find it, you're gonna Citadel it. Hanover gets a little bit of a pass because its whole thing is that you can't Citadel it, and it has just other armor issues, which are massive and takes a lot of damage otherwise. Patrie, 32 everywhere, gets smashed regardless. This might be one of the tankier or the tankiest battleship at this super ships tier, alongside some of the easiest guns to use because you just load sap and you don't really have to care about angle or where you are actually aiming. You just hit center mass and do a ton of damage very, very consistently. You have all the tools to get out of bad situations in this exhaust smoke generator. Still have great healing, standard heals, right? We with the build I was running towards the end, we have 4 of them. We're going to get a 5th one because of improved repair party readiness here. Getting 2 million potential damage, pretty easy in a ship like this one. I will say I did try some just standard tank builds. So instead of taking Furious, just take Emergency Repair Expert. And I got to my 6th heal rather comfortably in the games that lasted that long. I liked a Defense and ASW Expert, again, to get our consumables back a little quicker. AR is very good. Turret Traverse can be worth using. 46-second turn time here. Notably, it is a faster turret traverse base than what we find on like main Devastation, for example. So it's not that bad. And again, we have the 360 turrets in the back. So as long as we're pointed forward, the rear turrets are always going to be online for us. So I think that's about it for this look at Affondatore here. This is the new super ship. It's been a while since we've had a new super ship in the game, and wow, SAP is what they have chosen. Oh boy, I prefer that over their Z52 super ship concept that has like a 7-kilometer hydro, stealth hydro. Sounds even worse to fight against than SAP potentially, but yeah, look out for this one. It is very expensive to get it in the early access period. As I already mentioned, I would recommend everybody wait because you can just get it in the tech tree in a few months. And with the holiday convoy coming through, that will demand your resources for some premium ships that are of rare designations, even epic designations, some new stuff that we haven't seen yet. So highly recommend you save your resources for that. But if you have a lot sitting around, then this is the new super ship that you can get in the upcoming salvage. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.